what's up you guys? My name is Emily, also known as Parakeet Pals here on YouTube, and even more commonly known as Fish Taco on Instagram and TikTok. So today we're going to be talking about a super important topic that I really don't see a lot of people talking about. So today we're going to be talking about how much attention to give your bird, because you can give your bird too much attention and that can cause dependency issues, which can cause behavioral issues and frustration for your parrot. So really important to talk about. This applies for pretty much all parrots, from like cockatiels all the way up to your big macaws and cockatoos. Really important to talk about, really important to nail with your parrot and understand. This can prevent so much stress for you and your parrot and save both of you guys a lot of stress. Before we get into this video, I just want to preface this by talking about Fletcher's plucking, because you might notice in the videos he will flash you with his little plucked legs under his wings are really plucked. He's in perfect care. The vets totally approve of my care. He is a very loved bird and I've done significant amounts of research on giving him the best life, but he does pluck from habit. Fletcher was in a really abusive and neglectful situation before I got him. He was tossed home to home. And right before I got him, he had had a total of 3 homes within a period of 2 weeks, which is incredibly stressful for parrots. He has always been plucking since before I got him. And it's not caused by me when he plucks in my care, and not caused by stress, it's just caused by it being a habit. It's sort of like, for example, biting your nails. I bite my nails. A lot of people will bite their nail from stress, and then even when the stressor is gone, they'll still continue to do it because it's a habit. And that's sort of what plucking is for Fletcher. It doesn't mean that he's being abused or neglected. Just getting that out of the way so no one accuses me of neglecting and abusing my bird, because I have had way too many people do that to me, even though I take perfect care of him. Obviously, birds are incredibly social animals. In the wild, they're around other flock mates all the time. So it's basically like extroverts on crack. So of course, in this video, I'm just going to be talking about what too much attention can do to your bird and other things that can cause dependency issues. But I do just want to note that you definitely need to be giving your bird attention, and they absolutely need time out of the cage. So just noting that before someone comes at me in the comments for not giving my birds attention. Fletcher's out 5+ hours a day. I just wanted to touch on that. When I first got Fletcher, he actually came to me with dependency issues. So in his previous home, before I had him, his old owners would actually hit his cage when he was too loud to get him to stop screaming. And of course that made it a lot worse, and it gave Fletcher a really bad association with being in a cage and being alone. So I started off with a bird that already had dependency issues, and he just wanted to be out of the cage all the time. He never wanted to be alone. He was terrified of being alone. So when I first got him and he had these dependency issues, I was feeding into them by having Fletcher out of the cage pretty much all day long. Whenever he was out of the cage, he was either on or around me, which made everything a whole lot worse as well. Because if your bird's only association with being outside of the cage is being really close to you or on you, this can cause a lot of dependency issues. So what I should have done was have a play stand, like a tree stand. I have one that I really love. I'll put a picture of it right here. I should have had one of those around so that he could be out of the cage without always being on me. That could have prevented a whole lot of dependency issues for him. So yeah, that's one of my biggest tips with dependency issues and preventing dependency issues. Just having a play stand outside of the cage that isn't like directly next to you is a really good idea. It can really prevent dependency issues. You do not want your bird to only associate their time out of the cage with being on or around you. This is it's a good way to cause dependency issues. So I highly encourage having a play stand or play gym of some sort for your bird to be on when they're outside of the cage. Another really big mistake that I made when I first got Fletcher was that I was giving him too much out of cage time and too much attention. And when you give your bird too much out of cage time, you're not really giving them the chance to build a good relationship with their cage. You want your bird to enjoy their cage, and you want them to be engaged while they are in the cage. So, you know, lots of toys, you want to have the cage to be large enough, and you want to do training with your bird to get them to have a good positive association with the cage. And if they are out and around you all day long, they're going to get way too used to being around you, and they're going to get pretty freaked out when they are alone. So you want your bird to have a really good relationship with their cage, and you want your bird to have a good relationship with being out of the cage. It can be sort of difficult for people who are new to birds, especially ones with behavioral issues, who are just like new to parrot behavior in general, to find that good middle ground between a bird that enjoys being out of the cage as well as a bird who really enjoys their cage. You can really read your bird's body language. I'll make a whole other video on how to read body language, and you can figure out that good middle ground for yourself. I'll put a good link down below on how to read body language. If your bird seems really bothered when they are in the cage and frustrated when they're in their cage, then you have some work cut out for you, and you definitely need to work on that. So when I first got Fletcher, he actually didn't even like toys, so I was starting out pretty rough in terms of getting him into toys and getting him into enjoying his cage environment. You want to have a cage that's filled with enrichment and engaging toys, and you want the cage to be large enough as well. It doesn't look large enough right now because he's like in the foreground, the cage is more in the background, but when he's in the cage, he looks pretty little in it. So he definitely has a large cage that he really enjoys his time in. He actually even craves going in the cage now, which is really nice. It's really important that your birds have a super good relationship with their cage. And when I first got Fletcher, he didn't like any toys. So I had to work towards that with him. We had to do target training. I had to reward him with treats to get him to enjoy the toys. And basically what I was trying to do was give him a positive association with the toys. And when you're first getting your bird to enjoy toys, it's important that you start with toys that are like really easy for your bird to be engaged with. You want to offer a lot of toys that are, you know, have different toy parts in them, like offer wood, offer foam, offer paper, offer cardboard. And you're just trying to work out which toy parts your bird really likes, so that when you're shopping for toys, you can find toys that your bird enjoys. So you can just start by finding what parts your bird already likes, and then you can work them up to liking even more toys from there. I would give Fletcher treats whenever he would get near or touch the toys. He still has toys that he's scared of today, but it is so much better than it was when I got him. He was scared of every single new toy that he would look at when I got him, like to the point where he would hang onto the edge of the cage and start yelling because he was so terrified of them. But now he really loves his toys, and he will be engaged with them for hours upon hours upon hours. So he's really into toys now, but it wasn't always that way, and that was really something that I had to work towards with him, was getting him to enjoy the toys. I'll leave the link down below to a good YouTube video by Bird Tricks. I don't like all of her stuff, but I really like that video that she made on getting birds into toys. Another really huge thing for Fletcher was encouraging foraging. So foraging means to search widely for food or provisions. So this just means like hiding seeds and treats or other toy parts in your toys, so that when your bird is playing with the toy and looking through it, they find treats, and then they get that good positive association. And it's also encouraging a really positive behavior that they naturally do in the wild. So parrots actually spend 75% of their time in the wild foraging. Some people only offer food for their birds if it's in a foraging behavior. I don't recommend this for all birds, but some birds do really well with that, especially ones who have some really bad behaviors such as plucking. This can really help them be more engaged with their cage and help them be distracted and keep them away from going at their feathers, just like Fletcher does. So I used to do that, but it ended up frustrating Fletcher. So you just have to be really good at reading their body language so you know what to do with your bird in terms of foraging and how much foraging you're offering with them. And he has an amazing relationship with his cage now, and I have worked so hard on getting him to this point, and I am incredibly proud of him. Another really big thing to note is not giving your bird out of cage time like all day long, and you also don't want to have your bird You don't want to give your bird attention all the time. This is also just unrealistic, and if you give your bird too much attention, it puts them in a place where they expect attention all the time, and when they don't get it, they get really frustrated, and this can cause a whole bunch of issues such as attention screaming, dependency issues, which is essentially what we're talking about, and even plucking. So this is really important that you don't give your bird too much attention. In the wild, parrots are around their flock mates pretty much all day long. In captivity, the parrots see us as their flock mates, and obviously no human can be around their parrot all the time. It's just not realistic, and you need to train your bird and work your bird to being okay with being alone, because I haven't met a single person that has the time of day to be around their parrot all day long. Fletcher's out of the cage quite a lot, but I cannot have him out all day long because I have work, I have school, I have errands to run. It's just unrealistic, and it's just really unhealthy to put your bird in the position where they expect attention all the time, because when they don't get that attention, they start to panic and scream, and they just get really frustrated, and that's really unhealthy for your parrot. I'm going to be splicing my friend Danny into the video now. She also has experiences with having birds who have dependency issues, and I think that you guys could take a lot from her experiences.
I should probably introduce the birds I'm talking about. Here is Anthrax, that is the second bird. Ollie is somewhere over here on his foraging meal. Ollie is the problem child we will be talking about today. Big issue I see a lot of people do, and what was our big mistake, which was the mistake I also made, was I got a bird during a break. And especially with the quarantine, a lot of people got animals and they allowed them out all day. And that might not be an issue because, you know, in the human brain, you think automatically, okay, if I'm home, why wouldn't I allow my bird out? But the problem is that creates a very dependent bird, which it did for Ollie. And I'm pretty sure his old owners, I never met his old owners because he was like a gift type thing, which I don't think people should do. I'm pretty sure they had him out for the majority of the day too. So on top of his old life that he had been used to for 2 years, and me reinforcing him being allowed out all day, he became very dependent on being out, and especially being very dependent being on me when he was out, which was a big thing. And that's basically the big issue I'm going to be talking about. A lot of people do that. Just a lot of people are coming out of this pandemic being like, haha, my animal, my cat, my dog cannot stand being away from me for 10 minutes. But also, I'm a high schooler in school. We'll love to see where this goes for the animal. So with Ollie starting off, he got so extreme to where he started barbering, and then he got stress bars, and then he ended up plucking, which you can imagine isn't very easy. Hi, Ollie. Isn't very easy to achieve with the Granger Conure. They're simple. Still, this one's pretty complicated though. So he ended up plucking. A thing was that even when I went back to school, he had months to adjust to not being so dependent, and he just never adjusted. No matter what I did, he just never adjusted. A thing that people can do, that if they get too dependent of a bird, is they like slowly wean them onto not being dependent. So like the bird will be used to being out all day the second it wakes up. So they start with 1 hour in the cage, and then move up to 2 hours, and then move up to 3, and so forth. Ollie just never adjusted. He just never did. So I think I decided in the end the best decision for us was to get a second bird. And that's not the right decision for everyone. There's a lot that can go into consideration when getting a second bird. So that's what I did. And once I got them bonded, oh my god, he bit my nail. It is not realistic for a person to give their bird attention all day. Backtracking a little bit, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I know I'm going to be working at this job for the next 5 years, so I'll just let the bird out because, you know, that'll be the thing for years. But these birds live for 30 years and they can live for more. Some species live up to 80 years. You cannot predict your life for 80 years, and you just can't. These birds live a very long time, so please, even if you can predict it for a few years or you can predict it for a few months, please just make them independent. They'll thank you later for it. Bye, Ollie. Even though I'm home all day right now, I have them in the cage until 3 p.m. because that is when I would normally come home and let them out. So that is what I want them to be adjusted to, and that's what I have for them. And you can do that too with, like, obviously, I don't think you should get a bird if you're not gonna be coming home until 6 p.m. But just leave your bird, even if you're home and you're home during a break, leave your bird in the cage until you would normally be home from school or from work. Considering that you don't get a bird if you cannot give it the required amount of time out of the cage. Once I did get Ollie into a pair, again, going back to where you can't give your bird attention 24/7, but another bird can. Basically, they just bounce off each other. It's even better. Getting them into a pair is even better than you giving them attention, because with another bird, even though you can try your best to communicate with that bird, the only animal that's truly going to be able to communicate to the full extent with that animal is going to be another bird of the same species, right? So they communicate really, really well. And another thing is they can actually be like a bonded pair. They can be like a little romantic couple. Look, man, they get romantic with it, and you can't do that to your bird, but the bird can. So they can get really, really happy with that. And obviously with the 24/7 attention, Ollie was no longer really stressed. I didn't put them together in a cage until I got this cage. That's another thing, you gotta upgrade your cage. But once I did get them into the same cage, Ollie was no longer stressed from me being away for so long. They just give each other so much attention that they really don't need to rely on you, and it fixed his issues super well. He stopped plucking, stopped barbering, stopped having stress bars, all of that. They can become more comfortable in their environment because they see the other ones are more comfortable. They can go onto a good diet because they're together, which is a really, really nice thing. I have another cage here, which is where the kayik, and they're hanging out on top of it, and I'm just talking, and none of them are really focused on me. I'm like, he just flew away to go hang out with Anthrax. They just really entertain each other, and it's very, very healthy for them. It's basically like having a human with them 24/7, but on crack. Even though I personally had a really good experience with getting a second bird to bond with my first bird, that doesn't mean it's the right thing for everyone. There's a lot to consider with it, and as you can see, they're still hanging out, still preening each other. Say hi. Can you see them? Yeah, you can. All right, say bye, Ollie. Say bye.
I'm sure you guys are wondering now, okay, Emily, how much attention exactly do I give my bird? How much out of cage time do I give my bird? But there's no exact science or math to it. It's all about reading your bird and watching your bird's body language and watching your bird's behavior when they're in and out of the cage. If they are attention screaming and getting really upset when they have to be back in the cage, then they don't have a relationship with their cage, and you may be giving them too much attention. So, my mom keeps texting me, I cannot focus. You do of course want to give your bird enough attention and out of cage time to the point where they're happy, but if it's to the point where they just want to be out of the cage when they're in the cage, then you've created a dependency issue. If your bird can't stand being alone, then it's a dependency issue, and you need to work on that and get them to stop being like that. Also, I want to mention, having clipped birds causes dependency issues as well. Please do not clip your birds. If your bird is clipped, then they will rely on you for transportation, and that just turns into so much frustration, because if your bird is clipped, they can't really get anywhere on their own, so they completely rely on you to get places, and it just puts them in such an unhealthy position. Please do not clip your birds unless your vet recommends it for a disability or health reason. Please, it will cause so much grief. Fletcher here's previous owner clipped his wings to a point where they were completely butchered, and his feathers never came back. So this has also made everything so much worse for Fletcher in terms of his dependency issues, and it has put him in a place where he just has so many more issues. If your bird has like muscular atrophy, or was pinioned, or has follicles on his wings that won't grow back so he can't fly anymore, I would highly encourage letting your bird's nails grow out longer, because then they can hold on to things better so they don't like slip, fall, because that can cause a lot of confidence issues and therefore dependency issues. And then you can also teach your bird how to hop long distances. This has also really helped Fletcher with that. So please keep your bird flighted, or you can use those two things if your bird has issues like Fletcher to the point where they would never be able to fly again because of a health issue. So those are my recommendations for people who have birds who can't fly because of a health issue, or like history like Fletcher has with his wings being unable to grow back so he can't fly anymore. I really recommend that if your bird is in a position like Fletcher. Please don't clip your bird's wings. I will pay you, I will I will die if you clip your bird's wings. One clipped wing equals one Emily death, okay? So don't do that to me, okay? I'll cry. I'll cry. Please don't do it. I've seen too many clipped birds, it freaking kills me. All right, I just wanted to mention that clipping can cause dependency issues. I'm going to be splicing my friend Elle into the video now to talk about her experience with clipping causing dependency issues in her cockatiel Ducky. You almost definitely heard about Elle if you are part of the internet community of bird people. Almost definitely. She has a little bit of a following here on YouTube. Just a tad. It's not like she has 200,000 followers here on YouTube. So I'm gonna splice her in now so you can hear her talk about her experiences and you'll probably learn something from her. She's very good at making content and very educational to listen to.
Clipping a bird's wings can be a major cause of dependency issues. With Ducky, my cockatiel, I experienced this firsthand. I got Ducky when I was 11 years old, and Ducky did come, Pearl, shut up. Ducky did come from a pet store that clipped her wings very badly. She had all of her primaries clipped as well as about half of her secondary flight feathers. They were all clipped and she could not fly at all. With this really bad clip, whenever I put Ducky down, she would often try to fly back to me, and whenever she tried to take off, she ended up falling to the ground. At one point, she actually broke every single one of her tail feathers, and she had a little duck butt. Now, with this repeated experience of ending up on the ground every time I put her down and walked away, Ducky would develop really bad dependency issues. She would not let me put her down at all because she knew that I would leave, and whenever she tried to get back to me, she would end up falling, and that was a very negative experience for her. I had a play gym for Ducky, and Ducky did not let me set her down on that play gym. She wouldn't play with her toys because she was so preoccupied with trying to get back to me. She would pace, and most of all, she would scream. She would just scream until I came back because she could not get over to me. She would just absolutely refuse to let me set her down. She had to be on me 24/7, and that is really a bad situation for your bird to be in. They should be able to play independently. And as soon as Ducky's flight feathers grew back, she was able to do just that. She loves exploring the bird room now. She loves playing with toys. She plays on all the play gyms. She sits on top of the cages. She sits in different areas, and she doesn't need to be on me 24/7 because she knows that she's safe and she knows that she can get back to me if she needs to. Being flighted, Ducky also knows that she's not confined to one area. If I put a clipped bird on a play gym, they would just be stuck in that one area. They wouldn't be able to get around. But if I put Ducky on one play gym in the bird room, she knows that she can get anywhere. She can fly up to the cargo net, she can fly around and choose where to be. People often use the excuse of clipping a bird to make them more dependent on you as a taming technique, which is not a good taming technique at all because it'll just lead to all the dependency issues that I had with Ducky. It is not a good thing for your bird to be dependent on you. That is not how to tame your bird. In order to tame your bird, you need to tame them through positive reinforcement, and your bird needs to choose to come to you. You need to work at the bird's own pace. The clippers will say stuff like, oh, it's gonna make your bird trust you more if they're dependent on you for transportation. No, that is not trust whatsoever. Trust is when a bird genuinely wants to be with you. For example, Nemo, come. Good bird. This is my Gende Conure Nemo, and I've only had him for 3 days, and he's fully flighted.
Also, I just want to talk about like how much I hate the stigma around cages within the bird community. Cages aren't a bad thing. Cages are not inherently bad for your bird, but there are people who abuse cages. Not quotes, it's not even in quotes, people abuse their cages. And I call it abusing cages because it's when you have your bird in the cage too long, or you have your bird in a cage that is too small with a lack of toys and good perches. That is when you're abusing the cage. And cages can be a wonderful tool, but if you're having your bird in the cage too long and the cage isn't an engaging space for your bird, then that's when you are to the point of abusing your cage. So I like having a crib policy with my cages. So my cages are used for relaxation time for my birds. They have downtime in their enclosures. And then I also use them when I'm not at home and I cannot supervise my birds. That is when I use cages. I do not have them in them all the time. My birds are out quite a lot. They get lots of good old attention time like Fletcher's been getting right now. And he thinks that I'm talking to him, so he's pretty happy about that. I just wanted to touch on that because can we stop the stigma around cages? Just because there's all these people putting their birds in like really crappy cages that the birds are not mentally stimulated in does not mean that people with cages like mine are bad. There is a bird YouTuber that a lot of people know. I think she's like the most popular bird YouTuber at this point. I'm pretty sure. Marlene McCohen. I love Marlene McCohen. She's a great person. I don't like her engaged, not caged stuff though, at all. I believe in engaged and caged. This reinforces the idea of having really good cage setups and helping a bird have a really healthy relationship with their cage and preventing dependency issues. I think engaged and caged is a really good way to do it. Obviously, you don't want your bird to be in the cage all the time, but while your bird is in the cage, you want them to be engaged, and I feel like Marlene doesn't touch on that. Okay, so please comment down below if you have any other suggestions on how to prevent dependency issues. Talk about your experiences with dependency issues if you have any. I'm always wanting to learn more about dependency issues because if you have experiences with dependency issues, your experiences might help my bird who has had dependency issues in the past and still has some dependency issues that I am working on desperately. So please comment down below if you have any other suggestions on how to prevent dependency issues and how, just like your story with dependency issues if you have any. You can leave some comments, some suggestions on videos I can make in the future. Please like and subscribe. 1 like equals 1 bird who doesn't have dependency issues. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye.